Hi class, how you guys doing? Okay, I want to go through Module 1 and just kind of go through the lay of the land, so to speak, and also the assignments and the discussion board for attendance. So, Module 1 introduction, what are we talking about in Module 1? We're talking about symbols and icons and how they relate to logos. So, throughout the course, you're going to see reference to symbols and icons. And what are symbols? What are icons? We'll get into that in 1 second, but I think the big picture here is how do they relate to logo development? And the formula here is that as visual communicators, we need to establish a way to communicate using a visual shorthand. So in other words, we need to be able to develop visual attributes that refer to a more complex idea. So if you're going to try to represent an idea pictorially, quite often that can be very, very difficult. So what we do, without drawing out a whole scene, do you see what I'm saying? So what we do is we condense these pictorial representations into simple graphics that represent ideas. Those representations are called symbols. So right over here, we can see some examples of symbols. Now, if you notice, symbols can be either pictorial or they can be abstract. Most often, symbols are abstract representations of the idea they represent. For example, this peace sign here doesn't mean anything without the associated meaning tied to it. So unless you know what this means, it doesn't mean anything. Do you see what I'm saying? And that is one of the major considerations of a symbol, is that it has to have assigned meaning. Okay, so we move to symbols. Why do we use symbols, first of all? What are symbols and why do we use them? So symbols are arbitrarily assigned to an object, concept, or socially accepted. The symbol must be learned. Okay, that's what I'm saying. The symbol must be learned. So we need to learn what this peace sign means in order for it to have meaning. So just drawing the symbol itself does not assign meaning to the symbol. Okay, that's a key principle in symbols, and it's one of the key differences in between symbols and icons. Okay, so why do we use symbols? This is a great little video here, and it really describes the history. And basically, in a nutshell, the history of symbology and using symbols is derived, many believe, from the ancient civilizations, specifically warning other individuals within those same ancient cultures, warning them how to and what to be aware of and what to beware of in their everyday existence. For example, okay, if you are a hunter in a Paleolithic or an ancient civilization, on hunters and gatherers or farmers. Okay, let's say in hunters and gatherers, you are a hunter and you're on a hunt, okay, and there's something that presents relative danger, like perhaps animals, perhaps a cliff, perhaps falling rocks. So what happens is these ancient civilizations are trying to communicate with one another, allowing each other to understand that there could be specific danger associated with an event that might be occurring, right? So, for example, if there's a specific hunting ground that has falling rocks, how do you let other hunters know that that danger is inherent? Remember, there's no language yet. Okay, so you can't just write a note on a cave wall. You have to let them know pictorially. And that is the origin of symbols, allowing communication pictorially as opposed to verbally. Very, very important consideration. This video explains things beautifully. Okay, we also have how are symbols related to logos and how to design symbols. So take a look at those, and that is your kind of introduction to symbols. Then from there, we move on to what are icons. Now, icons are a little bit different than symbols in that it's still a shorthand of a way to communicate a visual message without having to draw it out or write it out. So one little icon represents an idea, right? But the difference and the main difference between icons, and icons are everywhere, as you know, they're on our phones, they're on our computers, they're on wayfinding. At the airport, we find icons depicting bathrooms, restrooms, restaurants, customs area, baggage claim, parking, transportation, etc., etc. So they're used quite extensively, specifically in situations that need to transcend cultural barriers as well as language barriers. Okay, so think of an international airport, for example. You're not going to write the word men's room on a men's room door because it's a multi-cultural audience that also speaks several different languages. So we have to let them know differently. I want to give you a quick story regarding icons. A few years ago, I was in Palo Alto in California. I was meeting with a client, and we were sitting in this really super fancy French restaurant. The client had taken me to dinner to talk about some design aspects for a project I was working. Took me to this really super fancy French restaurant, right? And I was I'll be honest with you, I was a little out of my element because it was really super pretentious. I mean, the waiters were wearing tuxedos. It was white tablecloth, the whole 9 yards, right? So needless to say, I was a little nervous to start with. So at one point, we're carrying on with this design business meeting, and I'm presenting my design ideas for the client. And everything went great, right? And the client, hired me to do the project. And the story is related directly to icons because at one point during the dinner, I needed to excuse myself to use the restroom. Restrooms were on the second floor of the restaurant, so I walked up there, and there's two restrooms, okay? And instead of having icons that were very easy to understand, very easy to depict, and you can imagine in a situation quite often you need to decide which room you're going into quickly, as it is, of course, a restroom, right? So I get there and I'm looking at these two rooms and I could not figure out. The icons were terrible. They were not depicting man or woman. They were something trying to be really cute, and the language was French, which I don't speak. And it wasn't the simple language, mademoiselle or monsieur. It was something completely different. It was what I thought to be a big design mistake because I am one customer that couldn't decipher. Standing in front of two rooms, I couldn't decipher which one was the men's room. I had to ask a person on the wait staff. The reason I'm using this story as an example is because it's important when you're designing icons to make them, they need to be a pictorial representation. And that is one of the big differences between symbols and icons. Symbols can be abstract. Icons need to tell you exactly what is going on. Icons should also have some sort of frame around them to contain the meaning within a shape. Okay, I'll talk about that more in a second. So that's the main difference between icons and symbols. And you need to do some research and understand how and why these are associated with logo development. Okay, moving on. Here you have 10 tips for designing icons. And then you also have 7 principles of effective icon design. Okay, now, here's a little bit about the difference between symbols and icons. And our attendance question this week, guys, if you click that, and don't forget to participate in the attendance discussion. But at any rate, the attendance discussion here, if we jump over it here, I'm going to open that in a new window so I don't lose my place. However, that attendance discussion is pretty easy. In your own words now, in your own words, describe the differences between an icon and a symbol. Okay, please don't use the words. Please don't use. Do this in your own words. Okay. Learning objectives for this week are understanding the difference between symbols and icons and understanding how the study of symbols and icons can benefit effective logo design. Again, it's a shorthand language that is going to help us, to assist us. Learning symbols, learning icons is going to assist us in a language that we can develop to design logos. Because again, logo design is a basic shorthand language that we use to represent a specific idea associated with a specific organization. Logo, right? Okay, let's move forward. Here we have our agenda, review module lecture and associated links and resources, and go through all of these links. There's not too much here, guys. There's really not. But go through them. I'd like you to know these like the back of your hand by the end of the week. Assignment 1, 333 concept development. We'll talk about that in a second. Participate in the attendance discussion. Scamper idea generation. This is a great video. Scamper is a fantastic technique. I highly recommend that you go through this and really learn it well. Complete the technology survey, and that is located in the right over here. That technology survey is located. It's located in 2 places. It's in the assignments, and it's also, believe it or not, it's located in the quizzes. So don't forget to include that. Now, our assignment this week is the concept development stage of assignment 1. Here's the rubric right here. Let's pop that guy open. And we'll go ahead and see what's going on here. So for this assignment, you're going to choose an emotion, an animal, and an object. Choose 3 shapes, like but not limited to a circle, a triangle, and a square. You can use any shapes you want. Okay, now these are this is icon development, right? So we're going to develop icons. Each icon will represent a different shape and color. So what we're going to do is we're going to design icons. All right. So when it says shape, it says a square, a circle, and a triangle. You're not limited to those. You can use any shapes you want. So for example, if you want to use a hanger as your object, it's a good idea to use this shape of a hanger. Conversely, if you want to depict a helicopter in your icon, of course, it's a shape of a helicopter. So I don't want you to think you have to use a square, a circle, or a rectangle, right? Or a square, a circle, or a triangle. Okay, as you can see, this no smoking, or this kind of smoking, if this were a smoking area, it's just a simple rectangle with lines, with a long rectangle oriented on the horizontal, then 3 small rectangles oriented on the vertical, and then 3 wavy lines. So those are a combination of shapes used to construct this icon right here. Okay, so what are we doing in the first part of this? As you can see, concept development is at the end of due at the end of week 1. So what you're going to do in concept development for this is you are going to move this over because the camera's in the way a little bit here. I don't want this to interfere. So let's just move that guy over right there. All right, concept development due at the end of week 1, right? So please submit a written rationale, including your choice of an emotion, an animal, and an object. Okay, there's 3 different things, icons you're going to design. You're going to decide the shape, describe the shape you're going to use. Okay, to symbolize them and give a reasoning behind your choice of shape. Indicate the color you will assign to each item, include your color swatches, and describe how the color is relevant to the subject. Submit your written rationale and sketches of the proposed icon. So let me give you a quick example here. Let's say I want to do a mood. Okay, so an emotion. Okay, so let's say I want to do sadness. Okay, so in my sadness, I'm going to say I want to do a square. I want to use a square to represent sadness. Why a square, you ask? Well, because sadness seems to be like you're kind of stuck in a rut, right? So I'm not going to use a circle because a circle indicates movement. A circle can roll either way. So I'm not going to use a circle. I'm not going to use a triangle because the points seem to indicate something different. I just want just a sedentary object, all right? So I'm going to draw a square, and I'm going to use that square to represent sadness, all right? Now I'm going to need to attach a color to that, right? What color would exude sadness? Well, you think of blues. I've got the blues, right? That means sadness. I've got the blues. So we're going to make a square that's blue, and then we're going to place that in some sort of a frame like this kind of rounded square frame with a blue square inside. And then in your written rationale, you're going to describe everything I just described, and you're going to use it accordingly. Okay, that's what I have for this module 1, guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns at all, please get with me. And Otherwise, I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys in our discussion, and I will be looking forward to these wonderful concept development submissions. Okay, thanks everybody.